Good morning, guys. So I've been trying to film this video for actually about a month now because Miss Paisley is now 1 month old. I cannot believe it's already been a month. So I'm going to go ahead and do her birth story. So I'm going to take you back to August 10th, right around 6:30. I decided that I was going to take a bath. I climbed into the bathtub and noticed I was leaking some fluid, and TMI, I wasn't quite sure if it was urine or if it was amniotic fluid, because with my boys, my water never broke. I had it forcefully broke at the hospital, by a doctor. So I didn't know what the feeling would be like to have my water actually break. So I kind of monitored the liquid for a little while, and I decided to go ahead and call Ernie Hospital's labor and delivery and tell them what was going on. The nurse on the phone advised me to go ahead and go put on a pad and lay down for about 30 minutes. And if there was a rush of liquid, then it was absolutely my water. So I went ahead and did that. At the end of my 30 minutes, I got up, and it was a huge rush of water. So we knew then that my water had broken. But the issue was my contractions were not anywhere consistent. I was having consistent contractions days prior, but that day, I felt fine. I felt absolutely fine. And there was no contractions that day, and it was very frustrating. So we went ahead and we packed the kids, and we kind of did some things around the house, and I ate some dinner, and, got prepped to go. So we took the kids to the babysitter. We went to the labor and delivery deck at the hospital, and where they did it's a pad test where they put liquid on your pad to see if it turns colors, and if it turns a blue color, then it's amniotic fluid. Well, the doctor said he's never seen such Smurfy blue on that test, and so absolutely was my amniotic fluid, but the issue was my contractions were just not coming along. So they went ahead and admitted me. We texted the babysitter, told them they admitted me, called my mom, called, my in-laws. We went ahead and sent texts out to our pastor at church, and we attend a marriage group at church. So we went and sent texts out to them and let them know, to start praying and for a safe and healthy and fast delivery, preferably. Her birth was not fast at all, to be honest with you. Excuse that little hee-hee in the background. And my youngest son is home from preschool today. They don't have preschool on Fridays. So they went ahead and admitted us, and the doctor decided that he was going to perform what's called Cervitec, and it's a little pill that they insert into your cervix, and it's supposed to thin out your cervix. I was having contractions with those. They weren't anything crazy, but they were coming along. I waited a few hours and texted my photographer, but my photographer lives an hour away from where we live, so I wanted to text her in enough time and was like, hey, my water broke. Nothing's exciting happening, but, if you want to make your way over here, that'd be great, just in case. Honestly, though, I could have waited because I could have totally waited because nothing ever happened. He's a little hee-hee in the background. So we went ahead and did the Cervitec, and right around about 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, I was still sitting at 3.5 centimeters dilated, and I was not dilating, and my contractions were not consistent. And the doctor looked at me and said, do you want to try another round of Cervitec? And I was like, to be honest with you, no. I had my second son on a Pitocin-induced birth. He was 43 weeks, so he needed to come out, but I had, we tried Cervidil with him, which is another form of Cervitec, and it didn't work. The only thing that worked was Pitocin, and I went into, this labor expecting to have another natural birth with no pain medication, and that's not what happened, unfortunately, and it sucks, but, I'll get to further that into the video. So we went ahead and started my Pitocin right around 9 o'clock in the morning on August 11th, expecting to have a baby that day. I sat on Pitocin up until the moment I had her, to be honest with you. they checked me at 6 p.m. and I was only 4.5 centimeters dilated after having my Pitocin on for so long. And at this point, I was maxed out on Pitocin. And if you know anything about Pitocin induced contractions, they're severe. They are incredibly severe, and they are just not normal contractions, and they hurt like crazy. Right around 8 o'clock p.m., my monitor started going off and her heart rate started dipping, and my heart rate was dipping, and they were very concerned about, getting her out of there, because at this point my water had been already broken for over 24 hours. So they told me that they would go ahead and let me labor a little longer. I had to sign a waiver stating that I knew the risks of being in labor for so long without my with my water broken, and it was rough. It was a very, very rough labor. Right around 3 o'clock in the morning, I was just kind of done. I was done. I was hurt. I wanted to go home, to be honest with you. I wanted to go home. And I kept telling my doctor I wanted to go home, and I wanted to go. I wanted to go home. And my husband, my husband could tell it that I was exhausted and I was done. So right around 3 o'clock, I started discussing an epidural with my husband. I had an epidural with my first son, and it was a very horrible experience. Like, I still have back pain to this day. The anesthesiologist was not a nice person. She was very rude and just did not care. It was, and that's why I'm so against epidurals. But at this point, I was done. I had them go ahead and check me again, and I was still sitting at 4.5 centimeters dilated, and it was very frustrating, very frustrating. So I labored a couple more hours, and right around 5 o'clock in the morning, August 12th, I decided that I was going to have an epidural. I couldn't do it anymore. There was no possible way I could do it anymore. And I hadn't eaten since the night of August 10th, because they weren't letting me eat in labor. Well, they were letting me eat popsicles and like Jello and stuff like that, but it was not a legit meal, so I was starving. And it was very, very frustrating to be in labor for that long. I expected to go in there, my water broken, and everything was going to be a bing bang boom process, and it wasn't, and it was very frustrating. So right around then, I decided to go ahead and get my epidural. I got my epidural, and I slept, and I slept. I hadn't slept since August 9th. So, I was running on fumes by that point. Right around 7:30 in the morning, my alarm started going off, and everybody kind of rushed in. Her heart rate was very, very low. And my doctor is like, at this point, I've already gone through multiple teams of doctors. They switch out doctors teams there, so I don't birth with one specific doctor. And it sucked, because I had known I was on such a high-risk pregnancy this time around that I had known most of the doctors on the labor and delivery deck and the obstetrician deck. But the doctor that delivered my daughter, I had never met her in my entire life, and I think that's what she was waiting on, because that had happened with my second son. Is I knew most of the doctors that I was getting, and then all of a sudden, he came when I got a doctor that I didn't know. I woke up to my alarms going off and doctors surrounding my bed, and this doctor that I don't know is telling me, your daughter's in distress. We need to get her out of here. If you want to do a vaginal delivery, you need to start pushing. And I'm like, I'm only X amount, of centimeters dilated. This is not how this works, lady. I've done this before. And she's like, the pressure is going to help you dilate. I didn't know that. I don't even know if that's true. Maybe she was just making me think, All of a sudden, I went ahead and started pushing, and she said, whoa, stop for a minute. And it turns out I had a second bag of water, and it's called a 4-bag of water. I still, to this day, don't know what it is, or why it was even in there, to be honest with you. She went ahead and popped that bag of water, and I instantly dilated to a 9.5 very quickly. And after 3 pushes, my beautiful little girl was born, 7 pounds, 9 ounces, and 20 inches long at 8:20 in the morning on the dot. And it was not the birth that I had wanted, and it was not the labor that I had wanted, but in the end, my little girl is here, and she's healthy now that, you know, we're out of the NICU. And we have her home, and she's here, and that's honestly, that was the only thing that really mattered at that point, was getting her out. And so if you are watching this and you are, you know, soon to go into labor, do not beat yourself up if you do not have a birth that does not go as planned. Honestly, no matter what you do, as long as you get your baby into this world healthy and here, that is all that matters truly in the end, is that your baby is here. Because I've had 2 failed births now. My first son's birth was a failed natural birth. And then now my daughter's birth was a failed natural birth. And, you know, don't beat yourself up. I carried this burden for quite some years with my son, and I realized it's not what matters. You know, they're not going to care about their birth in 10 years. And neither will you, honestly, in 10 years. You're going to be growing, you know, you're going to be watching this little person grow up from a baby to, you know, a 10-year-old. And it's not going to matter how you deliver them. And all it's going to matter is that they're here and they're healthy, to be honest with you. So that is her birth story, her very traumatic, exhausting birth story. And I will go ahead and post another video of why we were in the NICU tomorrow. We'll see you guys later. Have a good day. Bye.